Before the market opens, let's identify where the highest probability supply and demand zones are forming. By the end of this forecast, you'll know exactly which markets I'd be watching this week and which one I think offers the best opportunity. Let's get into it. So we saw a very significant drop in the US dollar the past 2 weeks here on Friday, pretty red day on the DXY. I am still bullish on the dollar. We talked about how it is possible to see a pullback near the daily trend line. More importantly, it is also a weekly trend line. So it might look like the dollar is really weak right now. And I mean, it is, right? We are coming up, or we are following a pretty red week on the dollar, but we are coming into this trend line. And we are expecting this trend line to actually be respected, to push up to the weekly supply at 103.06. Again, on Friday here, we saw a very aggressive move to the downside. Kind of unsuspecting in my opinion. However, 4-hour downward trend line still being respected. So for dollar bullishness, which I am, could I be wrong? Definitely. But when we have higher time frame trend lines in control like we do, we have to kind of go with that. I'm not just going to predict the break of a weekly or a daily trend line without any evidence. So as far as what I'll be watching this week on the dollar to determine US dollar direction, it's going to be this 4-hour downward trend line. If it continues to hold, we could actually expect to see that weekly and daily trend line break next week. It's definitely possible, but I'm going to be watching this trend line to show me if it's doing that first. I'm not going to predict that. If we do break the trend line, any demand zone there, we could maybe see a reaction off of it. And if we do start to push up on the dollar again, like I expect, we have a couple 4-hour supply levels above that are probably going to give us a hard time, maybe some small moves, but ultimately, if we do continue and we do see the weekly trend continue, I am definitely expecting to see both of these 4-hour areas of supply removed. So this week, we're just watching the 4-hour downward trend line on the DXY. So just like the inverse of the DXY, the euro, we have a downward trend line on the weekly chart. It is currently in control. Not only that, we have a clear area of liquidity down below that we could likely be targeting. So definitely still bearish on the euro. I will be somewhat bullish if we can get a close above this trend line, meaning that the weekly trend line is now broken and my dollar bullishness that I was expecting was wrong. I will happily admit I'm wrong. I just need to see the trend lines be removed. Talked about this last week as well, and I was telling the members, the euro, we were starting to push back towards the trend line. We were sitting around here, and I said, guys, I think we could actually expect to see maybe one more leg up to hit this daily supply at 115, and we have done just that. We actually wicked right out of it pretty nicely. So we are expecting to see some downward pressure here, especially with the daily downward trend line, the weekly downward trend line, daily supply and control. So in my opinion, shorts are actually preferred here on the euro US dollar, and it's looking somewhat promising. We have a couple of options. So we are coming into potentially this, it's an older 4-hour area of supply at 115. It's not bad. It was created off of a 4-hour supply zone trade that we caught. We already caught this trade. After we reacted off that zone, we created a new zone. It's not the best, and not only that, it is old. However, what we have going for this zone is the fact that it's inside of the daily supply. So the fact that it's old doesn't bother me that much. So it could be good for a set and forget trade. Again, it's old, so I'd be somewhat aggressive with trade management, and that's what I'd be doing on the euro if you're bearish. That's our set and forget trade at 115. If you're bearish on the euro, we simply want to wait for a break of this 4-hour trend line, and any 4-hour supplies on there is going to be our confirmation trade coming off the daily supply. There is a 4-hour demand down below at 113. Again, I'm not super bullish on the euro. However, if you want to trade this zone, it could be good for maybe a 1-to-1 trade on the euro US dollar. Again, with the daily supply and control, typically we want to look for 1-hour confirmation. So what I'd be doing on the 1-hour chart is just like I said on the 4-hour chart. If we are waiting for this trend line to break, and if there's a supply zone, this is our confirmation trade, right? We are waiting for evidence to suggest that the daily supply is going to hold, and the evidence would be a upward trend line on the 1-hour chart breaking. And again, we need a supply zone there to look for a trading setup. So looking for confirmation on the euro short is what I will be personally doing this week as a swing trader. Looking at the forecast for gold, we all know gold has had a massive rally to the downside after such an aggressive move up for many, many months. We are coming into contact with this daily supply. I think what we could see is some sort of trend line liquidity. The trend line traders are most likely trading this trend line. I would believe stop losses are probably going to be up here, right into our little daily supply. I think that supply zone we could see a move off of. However, since the trend line is in control, shorts actually do make sense right now on gold. But if you guys have been following my channel for a while, you guys know I don't just trade with the trend now. I like to trade even against the trend, but what we do is we just be aggressive with trade management instead. So if you want to trade against the daily downward trend, we do have a nice 1 hour trend line to the upside right now. This 1 hour trend line is our guide for 5-minute time frame longs, meaning however you like to trade, this is our 1 hour trend line guide for long trades. As long as this trend line's holding, you should be looking for longs on a 5-minute chart. However, once we contact the daily supply, if you're in a trade, then I would look to wrap up the trade because we're going to have higher time frame supply zone forces against your day trading longs. It's not going to be the most highest odds situation. Over here on the 4 hour chart, we've been talking about this range we've been in on gold. And you can see here, this is a supply zone trade that we caught a couple weeks ago. So this was a trade that I called out in the daily market breakdown video for the Diamond members many weeks ago. What a trade from that zone. If you want to trade alongside myself and the members, join the Diamond membership, where you will have access to the 38-page supply and demand zone PDF, which will be your complete trading guide, the daily market breakdown videos, which are forecasts that I release every single night for the members to trade alongside myself, step-by-step video lessons A to Z covering everything you need to know on supply and demand trading, the Sunday strategy Zoom session where members submit homework, and it's an interactive 1 hour call where we go over all of your homework and every trading related question, private access to myself inside of our private Discord group where I answer all of your trading related questions, and finally the Sunday live stream forecast where we break down over 30 markets together. And it's not just me. Here are some of the members and some of their trades they've been taking lately, absolutely killing it. And we also have some amazing reviews from some of the past members sharing their experience within the group. So if you're ready to trade alongside myself and the community, join the Diamond membership today. Links in the description down below. So this proven supply zone, again, we got the trade off that zone. So now we know that there was supply here as we rode the next wave down. When that proven supply was removed, it was removed by this area of demand at 41.83. It is counter trend, so we have to be careful. But if you want to get in long on gold and if you're bullish, that is our demand zone for a long trade. And like I've been telling you guys here on YouTube, I've been telling the members, due to the market conditions with Trump and Iran and all that stuff, we want to be aggressive with trade management on gold, whether you're looking for longs or shorts. So this is our demand zone for a pullback long trade at 41.83, but I wouldn't be getting greedy, right? If we get a nice move, it doesn't hurt to put your stop at break even or half risk or whatever you got to do. We don't want to be getting greedy in these types of market conditions. On to the forecast for the S&P 500. We were in this range for many, many weeks on the S&P 500, and we finally have broken out of this range, and that was to be expected, right? I thought we could see maybe a pullback. However, when you're trading, when you're expecting to see a pullback in a macro, like the S&P 500 is always in an uptrend. So predicting short trades, not the best situation on the S&P 500. Not the best zone here. The move away is not great. However, this could be a nice little daily area to look for longs at 76.10. This is going to be a high probability area for swing traders to look for little confirmation trades. And again, on the weekly chart, right, we were predicting this break to the upside due to the fact that it's always trending up, right? If you just zoom out, like hyper zoom out on the weekly, this entire market has just been going up, right? We're not going to predict any moves to the downside, right? It's just, it wouldn't really make any sense. Yes, it can happen. We have predicted moves to the downside, but we're always favoring longs on the S&P 500. As far as trading the S&P 500 goes now, we have a 1 hour trend line from here to here. And as long as this trend line's holding, you could be looking for longs on a 5-minute time frame on the S&P 500. And on the 4 hour chart, we actually have two 4 hour zones. They're both pretty good. The first one is here at 76.36, and the lower one is down below at 75.44. They're both pretty good zones. I'm not going to get into too much detail on them. However, they're both good zones for trading. If you are going to, you can either pick both, you could trade both. If you are going to trade both, I'd be aggressive with trade management on this one. Look for the bigger move on the one lower. Nonetheless, two good areas of demand on the 4 hour chart. And if you're a day trader, you could simply just wait for both of these zones to be hit and then look for 15-minute or 5-minute confirmation coming off of these zones. So a couple good zones here on the S&P 500, looking pretty promising to see another leg up to the upside, but we might be seeing a pullback first. Alrighty, onto the USDJPY. We had a nice weekly trend line. That trend line was just recently removed here on Friday when we saw a massive sell-off in the DXY. The good news is we created a weekly area of supply. So why I like that is this weekly supply will be good for potential swing trading short trades, as we will have a higher time frame in play. Also, if you are bullish, if this is just some sort of fake out, that's going to be a good target for long trades, and we'll know when to get out of the trade. We'll be watching for this here, this low. This low, if we break the low, it's pretty much confirmed that it's not a fake out. If the low holds, we're going to say, hey, maybe it was just some sort of trend line fake out, stopping out everybody trading the trend line. So pretty interesting weekly chart here on the USDJPY. I'll be honest, it's a pretty bad looking chart right now, guys. I mean, look at the 1 hour chart. This is just garbage. I look at this and it's like, ugh, I don't know. You ever just see something or somebody and you're just like, ugh, you know, that's how I feel here about the USDJPY. There is a 4 hour supply zone above at 163.26. It's decent. Could be good for a quick short trade. Created from an emotional move, so we don't want to be too greedy with that short trade there. So, but for now, guys, on the end, it's looking pretty bad. I'm opening this chart. I'm telling the members every day, look, I wouldn't be trading it. On to the GBPUSD, starting with the daily chart. I've mapped out the highs and lows here. And the question is, why have I done that? Well, I've done that because if we break the high, we will have a very nice trend line to the upside. That'll really show us the direction. If we break the low, we will have a trend line to the downside, and that will show us direction as well. So it is sideways on the pound, so it's not the highest odds situation to be trading the pound right now. However, with these highs marked out, if we break one or the other, it's going to be very, very clear direction and easier to trade. As far as the 4 hour chart goes, all of the pound analysis is going to be based on the 4 hour chart here. Everything I'm looking at is the 4. We're not even going to go down on the 1 hour chart. The 4 hour chart is super clear. We were talking about this 4 hour supply zone. Full transparency, that was a brutal loss, right? Didn't even react off of it. That's the reality. You have to accept that sometimes your zones aren't even going to react. We're going to break right through the zone. So just wanted to be transparent. We win many trades on this channel, but we also lose many trades as well. Just trying to be transparent with you guys here. I hope you guys appreciate that. If you do appreciate that, I would appreciate a like on this video and subscribe if you want to watch my forecast every single Saturday. Fully transparent forecast. I've been trading for over 7 years now. I'm surprised you even hear that number. It's actually crazy. So this is the place to be, in my opinion. And we just actually did another donation to the local sick kids donation. It's not local. I don't know why I said that, but we just did another $70 donation from all of the ad revenue generated from these weekly forecasts. So every subscribe helps. Every like helps. Obviously, yeah, you can subscribe to my channel. It does help me out as well, but I try to give back by donating the ad revenue from these videos. So I would appreciate a like and subscribe to continue to get those donations out. So transparent on that one. That was a loss. When we removed that zone, we created a new 4 hour demand at 133. So there's a couple options right now on the pound. If you're bullish and you're a day trader, this is our trend line guide for 15-minute time frame longs. So as long as this trend line's holding, you could be looking for longs on a 15-minute chart. If we break the trend line, what I would hope to see is another reaction off of this area of support, meaning there will be stop losses here. I look at support and resistance as a liquidity trap from retail traders trading support and resistance right into our 4 hour area of demand. So that's going to be our 4 hour demand zone for a long trade. Again, we are bullish on the dollar, so we don't want to be getting greedy with a trade like this. I personally don't think we're going to get a massive move like this, but nonetheless, it's a beautiful rally-based rally that removed an opposing zone. It's a good little demand zone for a quick long trade on the GBPUSD. Alrighty, on to the USDCAD, the country that I am from. Let me know where you guys are from in the comments down below. We are talking about this daily demand. We even caught a beautiful 4 hour demand zone trade on a lower time frame here, and that trade, we already took profit on that trade, and the daily demand actually broke. It is looking pretty bearish here as we actually have a daily downward trend line and trend at this point. Not the best trend or trend line, but it does qualify. And when we remove that demand, it actually left us with a daily supply up above. I'm going to draw it just like that. And not only that, it's kind of a liquidity trap at this area of supply as well. So you might think, wow, what a bearish sign on the USDCAD. But remember, if we go one time frame higher, what do we have? We have a weekly demand in control. I will admit, this is not a positive sign. I thought it was looking pretty strong on the USDCAD here. Turns out I was wrong. However, as long as this weekly zone's holding, we have to remain bullish. As soon as the weekly demand breaks, okay, then I'll be more of a neutral bias towards bearish, especially with this daily downward trend line. So as far as trading the USDCAD goes now, we have a couple of options. Again, since the weekly demand is in control, longs are actually preferred. But I'm not seeing any evidence to get in long just yet. So the evidence would be a trend line break, and any demand zone there is going to be a pretty strong setup, because what this would be is it would be a 4-hour demand zone coming off of a weekly demand zone, confirmation using higher time frame charts. That's what I would be doing if you're bullish. If you're bearish, this 4-hour trend line is our guide for 15-minute time frame shorts. But when we throw a channel tool on this 4-hour trend line, you can see we are very overextended. So I'd rather be looking for shorts on day trading timeframes somewhere in this area, the golden zone right here, above the 50% mark. And as long as this trend line's holding, that is our golden zone for day trading shorts with the downward trend line. And then on the 1-hour chart, there was a 1-hour supply here. I really liked it, especially with this liquidity forming. It's just a little bit old now. However, we do get a pullback up to it, especially if we can get another reaction off this liquidity. So if we can get something like this to take place, that's going to be a nice little demand zone for a quick trade. A little bit of money to be made off of that older area of supply. But it is looking pretty weak right now. Don't know if we're going to get a pullback up to there. So hopefully this all makes sense. And again, any questions, do not hesitate to ask. I will respond to every single comment. On to the forecast for the Aussie US dollar. Really not much to talk about on the weekly or the daily, which is fine. The 4-hour chart is clean enough in my opinion. So we had this 4-hour supply zone. I was calling this one out for the members, and we got a beautiful move off the zone. I personally thought we would see a larger move, so I was being a little less aggressive with trade management. But as you can see on my note here, this was actually a half risk loss for me. So when we got this massive move to the downside, I decided to take my stop loss from here and just put it to half risk. And unfortunately, with that dollar bullishness today, I was stopped out from that trade for a half risk loss. Just trying to be transparent again here on the channel. However, some of the members got beautiful trades off of the zone here. A couple of members, as you can see on the screen right now, nice little 1-to-1 trades off that zone. I just managed it differently, and I took a half risk loss. So not every zone you're going to make money on, right? Some of the members made a nice profit off that zone. I lost half. So not the best week for me, but again, just trying to be transparent here, show you guys the reality of actual trading, right? This isn't no channel where I'm saying $50 to $500,000. That is impossible. Remember those words. Nobody's turning $500 into 500 grand on their trading account. It is impossible. You heard it here first. So as far as trading the Aussie US dollar goes, this is our 4-hour trendline guide for 15-minute time frame longs if you're bullish on the Aussie. We also have a couple good 4-hour zones here. I definitely prefer the one lower, especially since we have potential liquidity forming here. But nonetheless, two pretty good zones. So if you're a swing trader, this is our initial zone on the 4-hour chart. As far as trade management goes, we don't have a trend on the weekly. There's really nothing to go off of. So I would lean more towards the aggressive trade management side. If you are going to get in long at that zone, I think we could see a small move. I think the bigger move is actually going to happen off the zone lower. So a couple good 4-hour zones here. And if you can't decide, just look for day trading confirmation there if you are a day trader. If you're a swing trader, don't day trade. Very simple. And then just kind of pick a zone or trade both. Let's say you take a loss on both of these zones. That's okay. Maybe your next trade's a winner and now you're back to break even. That is the reality of trading. Again, you're not making thousands of % of return a year. It's impossible. Not saying it's completely impossible, but it's extremely unlikely. So solid returns are like 8 to 10 to 20% a year if you're really good. Just trying to slap everybody back into reality here. Taking 2 losses in a row is certainly reasonable, but they're both pretty good zones here on the Aussie. Little rant's over. Sorry guys. Hopefully you guys appreciate that. Let me know what you think in the comments about all my comments. On to the forecast for the USD Swiss weekly trend line right at the 50% mark of the channel. So we could expect to see maybe another downward leg, push below the 50% mark, get even more of a discount here. So somewhat bullish here on the Aussie, or on the USD Swiss, sorry. We recently broke the daily trend line. The 1-hour chart's all over the place. However, the 4-hour chart is a little bit more clear. It's just not great. Not the best trend line I've ever seen. However, it is being respected. The trend line's drawn from here to here. This is the trend line being respected. So if you're bullish on the USD Swiss, that's our trend line guide for 15-minute time frame longs. And down here, below all this liquidity, we have a couple 4-hour zones. We're only going to talk about one for now, just to keep things simple. We have a 4-hour zone down at 0.799999. That is our pullback entry for a long if you're bullish on the USD Swiss. I would prefer to see another reaction off of this support since it's quite an old zone, that would really show me that there are potential stop losses here, would make me even more confident in that demand zone trade. And this is a trade where you don't have to be aggressive with trade management because you're trading along with a weekly trend. So it's a pretty good opportunity down below on the USD Swiss. We will talk about the lower zones maybe next week if we do get close to them. Moving on to crude oil, I've mentioned it several times now. We literally called out the bottom. Go back and watch my previous weekly Forex forecast. That's the beautiful thing about forecasting. You can see evidence of me calling out that low. No, oh, check out my P&L. That is definitely not fake. You can clearly see I called out this trade from that weekly area of demand. And then even the top, I called pretty much not the exact top, that's almost impossible, but we were talking about this daily downward trend line and how we are getting close to it and we are expecting to see a rally to the downside, and we got just that. But let me make something very clear. Whatever you're trading, whether you're bullish or bearish on oil, you want to be aggressive with trade management. I mean, we saw oil go up 8%, then down 8%, then up 8%. It's been crazy, which means we want to be aggressive with trade management. If you're bearish on crude oil, this is our 4-hour downward trend line for day trading shorts. That's our guide. As long as the trend line's holding, 15-minute time frame shorts are going to be good. If you're bullish on oil, we have to be patient right now. We have to wait for this trend line to be removed. And if there's a demand zone there, that will be our 4-hour demand zone swing trading opportunity on oil. But remember, don't get greedy. We want to be aggressive with trade management due to the president of the United States, the war that's going on. You never know what's going to happen. You don't want to be into the money a lot, and then all of a sudden Trump does a tweet and boom, you completely lost everything. We want to be aggressive with trade management. Last but not least, Bitcoin. It's a very simple breakdown here on Bitcoin. We have a weekly downward trend, but we broke the daily downward trend, which indicates it's a sign that we might be breaking the weekly trend. So to keep it extremely simple here on Bitcoin, we have a 1-hour trend line right now from here to here. That is our trend line guide for 5-minute time frame longs. As long as that trend line is holding, longs are preferred on the 5-minute time frame. On the 4-hour charts, we broke out of this 4-hour downward trend line, and when we did that, we created a 4-hour demand zone down below at 62.78. And I'm going to make it just a little bit smaller. That is our pullback entry for long if you're bullish on Bitcoin and if you are a swing trader. It's a nice little drop-based rally. Has a pretty nice move away. It's a good zone. I definitely think we could see small move off of that zone, if not a big move. Again, I say small move because it is counter trend to the weekly. So we don't want to be getting greedy with a 4-hour zone like that. If you guys want access to my full-length forecast, join the Diamond membership where you will have access to that as well as my daily market forecast, the full course supply and demand PDF, and much, much more. Make sure you guys subscribe so you can catch next week's forecast as well. And I always appreciate a like. Thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.